Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. Now I know yesterday I said because we were due quite a lot of rain last night that I'd probably be in the kitchen today, but when I woke up and I saw the sun shining and the blue skies, I just could not see myself in the kitchen all day today. So I thought, let's get down here and get a few jobs done down here on the plot. So here in the UK, we do this weird thing twice a year where we like to change the time. So we've just gone back an hour, and that meant that I got an extra hour in bed today. So I'm feeling a little bit more energized to get some jobs done down here. So the onion and the garlic beds, they're looking a lot neater and tidier. We've given them a weed and there's some growth starting to pop through. So that's all looking quite neat. The only thing that's letting it down at the moment are the paths. So I do want to give them a real good wood chip today. Now to do the entire plot, honestly, it does take me a couple of weeks. So we're just going to focus on the bit down towards my car and just around those beds. I'd also like to try and get in the poly house today and give that a real good weed over so that we can start sowing some greens in there for over winter. Another job that I really need to do before it starts getting too wet is try and clear out the shed. I've just been in there and a bloody rat jumped out at me. So they're getting in there somehow. I usually use the expanding foam just to top up any little holes where they could be getting through. So we need to give that a sort out over the next couple of weeks as well. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind the rats when they're jumping around all over the plot, but when they're in my shed, I really don't like it. I'm sure there's going to be some other little bits and bobs that we can get done down here, but as always, I'm going to warm myself up with a nice cup of coffee and then we can get stuck in. The old dahlias are still trying to hold on ever so slightly, but they are starting to die back, as you can see. So I'll leave these until we get a really hard frost, and you will find that these will just flop over and then you can cut them right back. I would normally be telling you to deadhead your dahlias, but this time of year they're not going to be producing any more flowers for you, so I'm just going to let them fade away into the autumn and winter. You're going to have to excuse the squintiness, it's a little bit bright down here, but if you remember yesterday's video, we found a little den in the compost heap. Well, I say little, it's quite large, it's definitely not from a rat. So a few of you have commented, I know the allotment newbie thinks that it could be a badger because they eat wasp nests, and there was definitely a wasp nest in there. And I've done a little bit of research, and the wasp nest seems to be full of grubs at this time of year, which the badger is after. So that is one possibility, but I also read how foxes like to dig trial dens. So these are basically little practice runs before they go and build their own proper den. They're not normally very big and they only go to the depth of about 1 or 2 meters, and this is quite a short run, so it could well be a fox as well. I know somebody commented about getting a night vision camera down here. The problem is we do get a few break-ins, so I don't want to spend too much money on a bit of kit, but I am going to go home, do a bit of research to see if I can get something a little bit cheapy just to see what's going on down here. The mystery isn't solved. Is it a badger or is it a fox? Right, let's give this area a bit of a tidy up. I'm going to weed amongst the rhubarb as well and some of the paths, and then we'll give the paths a really good top up with some of this wood chip. And hopefully it will start looking a lot tidier. you what, I'm absolutely knackered, and we've done it in the nick of time because it's now starting to rain and there seems to be some dark clouds heading over. So I'm just going to head inside and just make a cup of tea and have a little break. I've got a slight problem in that the robin is a little bit trapped in here. No idea how this fella's got in, but he's not enjoying himself, is he? So we're going to leave the door open on it and hopefully he will find his own way out, bless him. We've still got lots of colour down in the flower beds. So we've got pinks coming from the sedums, the cyclamens, the bellis, and a bit of purple from the catmint as well. But we've still got the fiery oranges and yellows from the rudbeckia and the marigolds. Now we do have all the nigella, which seems to be carpeting again. Now I don't want a forest like I did this year, so I will dig some of that over when it comes to planting the alliums, which shouldn't be too long. Oh, and we mustn't forget the beautiful cosmos, which is still beautifully pink, but it is starting to fade out a little bit. When it does come to clearing these beds, I do need to go really careful because we've got loads of self-seeds in there, from forget-me-nots to foxgloves, poached eggplants, we've got all sorts, so I really must dig around very carefully down this end. Down by the pear tree, not so much because that is just nigella. I've just been spending 20 minutes trying to hunt for my little hand fork. So this is one given to me by my nan and I've had it for years and it means a lot. So I was really hunting around and I couldn't find it anywhere, to the point where I had to look back at my recordings to see where I put it. So we're happy, we found it, and we're going to give this bed a real good weed. Means we've given all the paths a real nice mulch. It seems a bit silly not to weed it. We've got some self-seeded foxgloves and some poached eggplant, so I do need to be a little bit careful when I'm digging around so I don't dig those out. The calendula is gone to seed, so I'll make sure that I sprinkle those seeds in and they should germinate. Now they might germinate this side of winter, and if they do, as long as you don't get a really hard frost, they should be absolutely fine and give you a little bit of colour earlier than the ones that will germinate in spring. It might look like I was a little bit ruthless, but to be fair, I'd rather get the weeds and the grass out of there because there's plenty of seeds that will germinate between now and springtime. All of that bare ground right now will soon be full of flowers ready for next year. There'll be weeds, so we'll keep on top of the weeding over the autumn and the winter, but come spring we'll have plenty of colour in here. And then whilst digging around, I've noticed that I've got a couple of irises that are starting to grow. So I totally forgot I had them in there. I think they get overcrowded every year by all the spring flowers, but I'll try and see if I can get these to flower this year. Now, I don't know whether this is a good or a bad thing, but that swell on the trunk is where the plant would have been grafted onto the rootstock, and all of the soil has been up against there and the roots are starting to form. So I'll do a little bit of research as to whether this is a good or bad thing. It's just something to bear in mind when you're planting your fruit trees. The beautiful thing about blueberries is in the autumn they start to go these golden yellows and oranges, but then just before they drop their leaves they turn this brilliant red. I just love that contrast with the rest of the garden. There's not many plants that give you that brilliant red colour. Absolutely beautiful. Another job I must do whilst I'm in the fruit cage is pick these raspberries. We've got loads on here that are ready to harvest, a few that have already gone over. So this must have been what the robin was after. He seems to have let himself out. I can't see him in here. So yeah, we'll give these a real good harvest. Managed to harvest these little guys before it started tipping it down. Proper British weather. Sunshine to rain. So I thought I'd be able to weed in here in the rain given that it's undercover, but look, it's absolutely soaking in here. But at least I don't have to worry about watering things for the time being, but that does mean I do need to try and plug this up. And as you can see, all of that water is starting to accumulate on top, so we're just going to give that a push and get some of that off. So I do need to get some of the special tape. I might have some already, but we're just going to tape some of these up at some point just to stop that water from leaking through and getting this wood all wet, because it won't be long before that starts to rot off. One little job I do want to do before we go home is move these into the poly house. So these are geraniums or pelargoniums, whichever one you'd like to call them. But yeah, they do not like the frost, so just in case we'll pop them in for a little bit more protection. It's a little bit wet and it is a little bit cold, so I think I'm going to head home and I'm going to warm myself up with a nice cup of tea and start editing this video. So that is all we've got time for today, folks. The weather has let us down a little bit today, but to be fair, it is that time of year. So as it gets a little bit wetter and windier, you might find a few videos of me back in the kitchen, keeping nice and warm, cooking up some nice food. Don't get me wrong, there are still plenty of jobs that I've got to do down here, so it's still going to be garden focused, but I would like to share a few recipes or preserves that I've got. I hope you've all had a lovely weekend and you've got a great week ahead of you, and I'll be back down here again with another adventure next weekend. So don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you all again very soon. So see you later, guys. Bye bye.